kasalukuyan at napapanahon. Politika, opinyon, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang kinakampihan, at walang pinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa kahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, ang time check natin na 33 minutos po, pasado alas 7 na ng gabi ito, no? Okay, gabi ng Friday, 29 po ng Disyembre 2023, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Okay, narito naman tayo. Nandito tayo po sa ating programa sa integrated news natin. Okay, sa ADLSNTV Corporation, mga kababayan, no? And then kasama po ang nagtaguyod, nag-support po ang Mind of Global Food Lines, mga kababayan, na corporation. Okay, salamat po. Gusto namin po magpasalamat sa mga walang magsawa ay bumibili po ng aming produkto. Okay, salamat, no? Okay, lang araw na lang ang Pasko. Pasko, tapos ng Pasko. Okay, ang New Year po. Okay, 29 ngayon, gabing ito. At 30 bukas, Sabado, Sunday, at 31, pag Monday po ang New Year, mga kababayan, no? Okay, so sana po ay maganda. Ang pasok ng ang pasok po 2025, mga kababayan, no? Okay. Maganda rin itong kahit medyo hirap, no? Itong 2023, okay naman. Kahit medyo taghirap, no? Ayan. So, sana pagdating ng 2024, okay, mas lalo po mabuti po ang kabuhayan ng sambayan ng Pilipino, no? Okay, magandang gabi. Good evening. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, no? Ayan. So, nandito naman tayo sa halo-halo special opinion balita, diba pa? Okay. Kasama po sa serbisyo publiko tinig ng mamamayan. Okay, at saka itong anong tawag ito? Okay, sumbungan ng mamamayan, no? Kanina nanood ako ng ano ba 'yon? Recorded ba 'yon? Ni Vice Mayor Kiplis Alniman Ataman na kanyang programa po sa DXMO. Okay, hindi po marunong magkalikot ng mga ekwipo, okay, ng FM radio nila, no? DXMO nang ba sila? Tawa ko ng tawa, mga kababayan, no? Okay. Akala kasi ng tao ay madali po mag-operate ng itong mga trabaho natin, no? Okay. Hindi ka masanay. Okay, patay ka sa ere, mga kababayan naman. Okay, minsan kahit ako minsan patay ako sa ere, mga suki, no? Dapat kasi yan walang ang magpahinto lang sa inyo katulad ng ganito, no? Ayan. Pag maghinto ka, meron kang importante, ito ipindot mo. Ayan.
Ang administration ng balita at iba pa ay tumatalakay sa naisupang kasalukuyan at napapanahon. Politika, opinyon, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang kinakampihan, at walang pinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa kahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Hindi po dapat matigil ang sound sa ere, mga suki, no? Pag mag-broadcast ka. Hindi po pwede matigil. Kailangan tuloy-tuloy. Ito. Okay, hindi ka pwede dead on air mga suki mga kabayan. No? Ayan. Okay, anong unahin natin sa gabing ito mga kababayan? No? Okay, sandali lang. Okay, usapan pagkapayapaan, no? Itong binobroker po ng Egyptian government, no? Okay, ibobroker po parang meron tatlong proposal. Okay, ang Egyptian government, no? Ibobroker nila po yung kaguluhan po diyan sa Gaza Strip. Okay, pakinggan natin ang proposal nila. Okay, courtesy of Al Jazeera mga kababayan, no? Al Jazeera English. Pakinggan natin ito.
U.S. media is reporting that Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading to the Middle East next week to discuss the war on Gaza. His visit comes as Israel expands its ground offensive, targeting areas in central and southern Gaza. Regional mediator Egypt has put forward a three-stage plan to end the violence, but that's yet to be accepted by either Hamas or Israel. Let's bring in Natalie Tocci now. She's the director of the Instituto Affari Internazionali. She's the former special advisor to EU Foreign Affairs heads Federica Mogherini and Josep Borrell. She joins us from Cairo now. Welcome to the program. Firstly, where do you think we are now in terms of any possible brokering of a ceasefire?
Well, I think, the Israeli government and more broadly the military establishment has made it quite clear that it does not intend to stop this war. And so I think the next question is, sort of who and what is actually putting pressure on the Israeli government to change course. Now, we were just listening a moment ago to demonstrations within Israel. It seems to me that, as was being discussed, this is still a very small minority in the country. So the pressure is still not really building up within Israel. Of course, there is the question of the hostage release, and that is and has a dynamic of its own, but you still can't see it reaching that tipping point in terms of actually getting the government to change course. Now, sadly, you don't even see much of a change taking place within the United States. Let's see what Tony Blinken brings when it comes to the region. However, up until now, beyond obviously, calls in terms of reducing indiscriminate bombing and more broadly the intensity of the war, we have not seen the United States actually call for a ceasefire. And so, at the moment, basically, obviously there is the question of Egypt, and I think it's interesting the way in which Egypt has rather recently been stepping up more visibly. And obviously there will be a dynamic between Egypt and the United States, which will increase pressure on Washington to push Israel.
Okay, huwag kayo alis na.
Because, of course, as we know, the longer this war goes on and the greater the pressure it will be in terms of actually getting to essentially an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians moving into Egypt from Gaza, which of course is what Egypt wants to avoid.
Right, you mentioned the dynamic there. What about the dynamic between US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? How is that likely to play out now?
Well, so far, basically, the United States, as we know, has embraced the sort of bear hug approach, which, frankly speaking, has not really delivered so far. At the moment, as I said, you don't really see much of a change happening yet in the United States. Now, of course, as the US heads into its presidential campaign, I think there will be an increasing pressure within the United States and on the Biden administration. In fact, Biden himself will probably want this war to end sooner rather than later. But as I said, at the moment, we don't really see much beyond words. And words, frankly speaking, on this Israeli government don't really seem to be having much of an effect.
And after months of war, does the Israeli military have much to show, really, for its bombardment of civilians?
Well, no, it has absolutely nothing to show, right? Here we are sort of 2.5 months into this war, and there has not been, any visible quote unquote trophy basically to show for, meaning there has not been any sort of senior Hamas leader being taken or killed by Israel. So very clearly, Hamas remains, sort of in control of parts of Gaza. So very clearly, none of the objectives that Israel had set out for itself, beginning with the quote-unquote eradication of Hamas, have actually been accomplished. And of course, the longer this war goes on, and in many respects, the weaker Israel appears. Now, the question then, though, is, does this actually increase Israel's incentives to continue or to pull back? And tragically, it actually, the worse it gets, the less likely Israel is to achieve its objectives, the less likely it will be to want to pull back, in the sense that obviously pulling back now will obviously very clearly be seen as a demonstration of failure.
And when it comes to other outside actors then, what about the European Union and other Gulf countries? How much leverage do they really have?
Well, the European Union has, and I speak as a very sort of committed Europeanist. Sort of down to the bone. But I really cannot sort of deny the fact that Europe has really put on a fairly sorry show over this war, and in two respects, I would say. Firstly, because Europe is and continues to be terribly divided. We've seen this basically in the two consecutive votes that we've had at the UN General Assembly on the war, in which on both occasions, basically Europe was split in three between countries supporting the ceasefire, countries abstaining, and countries rejecting it. So Europe is basically divided, and what we see is, in a sense, a similar pattern to what we have been used to in the past, i.e. Europeans essentially following a US lead. Now, of course, the problem there is that whereas once upon a time, the United States was the indispensable power that was actually able to deliver results, today, while it remains the indispensable power, it doesn't seem to be able to dispense much at all.
Right, and let me ask you then, what about, forgive me for jumping in there, but what about Benjamin Netanyahu's position? Is he essentially playing a long game, as it were?
Yes, absolutely. I think sort of here there is a broad convergence, I would say, although coming probably from different interests between Benjamin Netanyahu himself and the broader political military establishment. So whereas in the case of Netanyahu, there's very clearly an interest in remaining in power and therefore avoiding elections, given that if Israel were to move to elections, very likely Netanyahu would be removed from power. And so in a sense, the only sort of opportunity that he has is, on the one hand, to prolong this war, hoping, of course, that if one manages, not obviously at this level of intensity, but if one manages to continue for a number of months and perhaps, almost into a year from now, and miraculously for Netanyahu, Donald Trump were to return to the White House, maybe he could actually be the eternal phoenix sort of rising from the ashes. So I would say, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, there very clearly is an interest in a long war. As far as the Israeli military establishment is concerned, I think here the interest is somewhat different, although it's convergent. And it basically boils down to the fact that, of course, the 7th of October was an absolute failure, right, for Israel. And so there is a very strong interest in the military establishment to basically demonstrate that it can somehow flip the tables around. And as we were discussing earlier, so far there actually hasn't been much of a military result to show for, which is basically why the military establishment at the moment inevitably has an interest in continuing this war.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Natalie Tocci, thank you very much indeed for your insights.
Great talking to you.
Ayan po mga suki, no? Okay. Sana ko ito. Okay, so wala tayong makuha po positive magkaroon po ng kapayapaan, no? Okay, wala. Parang okay, mga public opinion lang, mag-contribute sa public opinion mga kababayan. Okay, pero walang resulta pa na positibo, magkaroon po ng kapayapaan sa marami ng patayan po diyan sa Middle East mga kababayan, no? Okay, wala pa. Talagang mailap. Okay, mailap po, itetame. Okay, ang kapayapaan po diyan sa Palestine at saka Israeli government, no? Okay, ang susunod ay meron po sinaksak, okay, ng ano ba, pulis o soldier po ng Israel po, ng batang Palestino, no? Yun ang susunod na iparinig natin. Oh, grabe katapang, no? Okay.
Ang administration balita at iba pa ay tumatalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at nakapanahon. Politika, opinion, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang tinatampihan, at walang tinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa kahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, 50 minutos po, pasado na po alas 7. Okay, at itong programa natin, no? Ayan. So, tingnan natin ang isang audio. Okay, pag-stop po ng pag-stop po ng itong okay, isang batang Palestino po ay sinaksak po yung pulis. Okay, pakinggan natin. Netanyahu cancel war cabinet meeting on Gaza. Okay, galing din po sa Al Jazeera mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Ayan.
In the Khudri, Al Jazeera.
2 people have been wounded.
Ulitin natin, no? Ito. Kompleto.
Of despair, these families have been displaced multiple times, and now that they may well be forced to move again. In the Khudri, Al Jazeera.
2 people have been wounded in a stabbing attack at an Israeli checkpoint near occupied East Jerusalem. The alleged assailant was shot dead by Israeli forces at the scene. Well, the Israeli military then raided the alleged attacker's home in the neighborhood of Jamal al-Mukaber in occupied East Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has cancelled the war cabinet meeting meant to discuss the post-war plan for Gaza. He's been facing growing criticism from members of his own cabinet with talks for the day after in Gaza. Far-right members of the ruling coalition announced that they're holding their own meeting in protest of their planned exclusion from the discussions. But Alan Fisher joins us live now from occupied East Jerusalem. Alan, so this Israeli war cabinet meeting was cancelled at very short notice. What is this telling us, Alan?
Okay, let's remind ourselves there's the war cabinet, three-man war cabinet, there's the wider security cabinet, and then there's the full political cabinet. The war cabinet was due to meet. What were they meant to talk about? Well, the deal that is being discussed with Hamas, the Israelis, being negotiated by the Egyptians, the Qataris, and the Americans about the exchange of captives in Gaza for prisoners being held in Israeli jails that are Palestinian. Now, that seems relatively uncontroversial, and Benjamin Netanyahu told the families of those being held captive in a meeting on Thursday afternoon that negotiations are still ongoing. The second thing that was going to be discussed at the War Cabinet was what Gaza looks like the day after the war. But that's why Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled it, because one of his political cabinet, one of his allies in the coalition government, ADLSNTV, decided that he didn't want that discussion to take place. He is very much against the Palestinian Authority having any role in Gaza after the war. He's very much against transferring any money to the Palestinian Authority, as the Americans have been urging. And so, under that pressure, Benjamin Netanyahu decided that the War Cabinet would not have any discussions about this. Instead, he would leave it to the wider Security Cabinet, which is going to take place, we're told, on Tuesday. But it shows the internal pressure that Benjamin Netanyahu is under. He knows that there has to be a plan drawn up for Gaza the day after. He's under pressure from internal security service, from the Israeli army, and also from the Americans to have a plan in place. But he cancelled it because he was worried that it could fracture his coalition, could fracture his government.
Israeli forces have intensified their attacks in the Gaza.
What more details are now emerging about that stabbing incident in occupied East Jerusalem?
This happened last night. A young 23-year-old Palestinian man allegedly stabbed two Israeli police officers stroke army at a checkpoint at Jebel Mukaber, which is on the edge of occupied East Jerusalem. One of those who was stabbed is in a serious condition in hospital. The other one was wounded. The 23-year-old man was shot dead at the scene. The Israeli army then went to the house and arrested the mother, the father, and the sister of the young man. Now, they'll be held for questioning, essentially asking them, did you know about this? What did you know about this? And if you did know about it, why didn't you tell us? More often than not, they're completely in the dark as well. The house was ransacked, but this is a controversial policy because essentially this is seen as collective punishment for the family because of what someone did. There is also the possibility that the house might be demolished. That will be a decision taken by the court. But again, this is the idea of collective punishment, which has been criticized by many human rights organizations, that if someone in your family does something wrong, then the whole family suffers as well. They still got to go through the courts, as I say. But the Israelis take this collective punishment idea because they believe it acts as a deterrent to stop these sort of attacks. But the reality and the evidence proves that it really doesn't.
All right, Alan Fisher live for staring occupied East Jerusalem. Alan, thank you. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has continued carrying out overnight raids across the...
Okay, yan po ang balita tungkol pagsaksak po ng isang dalawang pulis ata ng Israel, mga kababayan. Israeli, no? And then nagkaroon po ng suspension, cancel po ng meeting po ng War Cabinet po ni Benjamin Netanyahu, no? And then ayon po sa balita ay under pressure po itong kasalukuyan po Prime Minister, okay, Benjamin Netanyahu, no? Okay. Ayan. So under pressure po ng mismo po ng cabinet niya, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Okay, after ito, maghanap tayo ng balita po sa national, no? Okay. Okay, ano kaya gagawin po ng BIR? BIR, subject online seller to 1% withholding tax. So ano po gawin namin mga, okay, online seller, okay, dito sa 1% mga kababayan. Basahin po natin para maintindihan natin ang bagong patakaran po ng BIR, no? Okay, the Bureau of Internal Revenue carried out its plan to subject a partner, merchant, or seller in online platform to the withholding tax system, no? O dapat may itong mga online ay may withholding na tax mga kababayan, no? Okay, so sige, mag-comply tayo. Okay, wala po problema. Okay, yung malaking binabayaran nga natin okay, sa mga permit natin, registration natin kaya natin bayaran, no? Ayan. As early as July, the BIR had floated the possibility of imposing a creditable withholding tax of 1% or 1/2 of the gross remittances of the online platform providers, okay, to their partner, seller, or merchant, no? Halimbawa, Lazada, paano? Automatic na mag-charge sa amin ng 1% ba yun? Okay, BIR. Halimbawa, ang ano ba yun? Salora, halimbawa, Salora. Automatic na mag deduct 1% o kaya ay Shopee. Ganun ba yun? Basahin po natin mga kababayan, no? Okay, hindi natin maintindihan. Okay, in November, BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. said the plan was in its final stages and could be completed in December. December na ngayon mga kababayan, na. After a series of a consultation with the public, online platform, and other stakeholders, formalizing the imposition of a 1% withholding tax on the sales made by the seller on online platform or a digital marketplaces, the taxman issued on December 21, 2023, Revenue Regulation Number 16/2023, no? May batas na pala ito, no? Okay, meron ng order. Okay, the RR number 1623 was signed by Lumagi and the Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno under the latest BIR regulation, 1/2 of the gross remittances of e-marketplace, okay, operating and a digital financial services provider to the seller or merchant for goods or operation and digital financial services provider, okay, to the seller or merchant for goods or or services mga kababayan, na. Okay, so hindi tayo makaligtas dito mga kababayan, no? Kung ipadaan na po sa mga katulad ng Lazada ba, katulad ng Shopee, katulad ng Salora, kung ipapatong na dyan, wala ka nang hindi ka na pwede umangal mga kababayan, na. So, tanggapin mo, operation and digital financial services provider, okay, to the seller or merchant for goods or services paid through their platform shall be subject to a 1% creditable withholding tax, no? Okay, so 1% of 1,000, magkano yun? 100 pesos. Ayan po mga suki, na. Mabigat ba yun sa atin? Hindi po mga kababayan, na. Okay, services directly remitted to the government on behalf of suppliers or employees, mga kababayan. Automatic natin ito, no? Umorder ka sa Lazada, umorder ka sa mga online platform, automatic na ito gagawin nila mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Kasi may order na. Okay, the BIR, however, said the 1% withholding tax shall not be collected if the annual total gross remittances to an online seller for the past taxable year has not exceeded 500,000. So mga 400,000 lang, 499,000.99 eh hindi ka exempted ka rito mga kababayan, no? And if the cumulative gross remittances to an online seller in a taxable year has not yet exceeded 500,000. Kaya sinabi ko, pag gross sale mo lang ang 499,000.99 cents, 999.99 cents, hindi ka makaabot pa ng 500,000, no? So, ligtas ka pa. Okay, the bill defined gross remittances as the total account received by a marketplace, operate, or digital financial services provider from a buyer or consumer for the goods and services served by or paid to seller or merchant through the platform of the marketplace operator. Mga kamintinan natin, no? So, ipapataw nila po yan na okay, pag meron mag-deliver sa atin, no? So, ang batas ito, okay, the RR number 1623 shall take effect after 15 days following its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper or general circulation, mga kababayan, no? Parang ko na-publish na ito. Okay, balido na ito ng batas ito, mga kababayan, no? Okay, to effectively collect the withholding tax from online seller, Lumagi earlier said that operators of an online platform or the marketplace should make sure the partner merchant are registered with the BIR before they accredit merchant in their platforms. So sila po mag-comply na. Okay, the BIR had argued with the proliferation of online sales transaction, okay, through the facilities of online platform providers, there was a need to take advantage of the opportunity to identify sellers of goods and services who are therefore obliged to declare their income resulting from this transaction for a tax purposes. Lumagi also reiterated the taxman's stance, saying that the taxing online merchants was aimed at the leveling the playing field between the traditional brick and mortar retailer and those selling on digital platform or marketplace. Ayan. The BIR's chief had said that this was not a new tax and that the BIR was only finding ways, okay, to collect taxes from digital transaction. Okay, so batas na pala ito, mga kababayan, na. Okay. So kailangan nasa resibo na yan ng or kung saan tayo bumili po ng mga produkto, no? o sa resibuhan natin na manggaling, okay, ay dapat po ay ang resibo natin yung online ba? Okay, meron resibo, okay, sa printer, okay, automatic na po naka-program na yun mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Kasi kanon po mga online taxes, ayan, naka-program na. Sa system po mga kababayan, okay, once mag-transact ka, tayo mga online, okay, kapwa online, baka doon na po ipataw po 1% mga kababayan na. Okay, ang oras natin, 9 minutos, pasado po alas 8 po mga kababayan. Okay, ilang oras pa po ang programa po. Okay, sandali lang. Balikan po natin ang ibang balita, no?
Ang administration pinagbalita at ibabahay malaki sa naisubang kasalukuyan at nakapanahan. Politika, opinion, komentaryo at balita ang programa ay patas sa lahat. Walang pinikilingan, walang pinakampihan, at walang pinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa makakaminan at trabaho lamang.
Okay. Budget deficit down. Okay, revenues up. Okay, sige po mga kababayan, na. Ayan. Okay. So, sige po mga kababayan, na. Ano sunod na balita natin, na? Sige po mga kababayan, na. Okay, sandali lang. Balikan natin ito, na. Okay. Budget deficit down, revenues up. So ano po, okay, impact sa atin ito. Anong epekto po rito sa atin? Basahin po natin, no? Okay, budget deficit down and revenues up, no? So ano pong nakakabuti sa atin ito? Sige, basahin po natin, no? Okay, the national government budget deficit narrowed for the second consecutive month in November as revenues grew by spending contracted. The Bureau of Treasury BTR reported on Thursday. Okay, the shortfall shrunk by 24.75% to 93.3 billion or 30.7 billion pesos, no? Billion lower than the year earlier, 123.9 billion pesos. Ayan. So, mga figure po data ito, no? Okay, the improvement was underscored by the 2.82% growth in revenue collection alongside a 4.69% contraction in the public spending, the Treasury said in a statement. Year to date, the overall budget deficit contracted to 1.11 trillion pesos, down by 10.09% from a year earlier, and equivalent to 74.10% of this year 1.49 trillion pesos target. Okay, the revenue total, okay, 340.4 billion pesos in November, up from last year, 331.1 billion. Okay, while the 432.6 billion in spending was lower than the year earlier. Okay, 455.0 billion pesos na. Ayan. Okay, the 11-month revenue tally of 3.56 billion pesos likewise, okay, marked a 8.75% increase from 3 to 3.27 billion pesos in the comparable 2022 period. Ayan po, no? So, puro figure po binabasa natin, no? Ayan. Hilig ko kasi sa figure. Okay. Mahilig ako sa figure, mga kababayan. Tax collection accounted for the bulk or 89.28% of a year to date revenue, with the remaining 10.72% generated from non-tax collection. For November alone, the Bureau of Internal Revenue BIR posted an 11.34% decline in collection to 210.2 billion pesos, reckoned from the start of the year. The tax bureau show collections grow by 8.64% to 2.34 trillion pesos, which was 88.77% at the 2.639 trillion. Okay, 2.639 billion target for 2023. So na-meet ito na-meet ito? Okay, na-meet ba ito? Okay, BIR o Bureau of Treasury. Okay, yun po ang tanong natin, na kung na-meet ba itong 2.639 trillion ang target nila po for 2023. Kaya pala doon ang title sa news. Ganun po mga kababayan. Okay, budget deficit down, revenue up. Revenues up, no? Ano? So, okay, kung ganon. Okay. So, yan po ang kwento, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Okay. Okay, yung mag-negosyo po sa mga realty housing market takes turn as sales rebound, no? Basahin po natin ito, wala nang oras ata. Ayan. Nako, meron pa. Kunting oras pa. Okay, tingnan natin po kung meron yung sa SS. Ano bang sa SS? Hot money inflows hit 4-month high in November. Anong hot money? Ayan. Okay. Contribution sa SSS contribution deadline move till 2029, no? Yun pala yun. Akala kung ano sa SS. Ayan. Okay, dissatisfaction with the government app. Ano ito ibig sabihin mga kababayan, no? Basahin po natin ito kung anong okay, hindi na maintindihan, no? Dissatisfaction with the government app, no? Sige. Okay, more Filipinos are dissatisfied. Ganun ba? More Filipinos are dissatisfied with the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The latest survey conducted by the Pulse Asia Incorporated showed the pahayag end of the year survey conducted from November 29 to December 4 showed a noteworthy shift in a pro-administration sentiment, which is declined from 50% in the third quarter to 46% in the fourth quarter, no? So bumaba po ang from 50 to 46, bumaba po ng 4%, no? Na-decline po ang ibig sabihin ng popularity. The polling firm said that anti-administration sentiment remained stable at the 18%, while those adopting a neutral stance increased from 30% to 36%. Ang mga neutral. Okay. Yung meron lang, no? Mga meron ang tawag diyan. Neutral ba? Ayan. Tumaas po ng 6% during the same period. Economic concern including price, inflation, joblessness, low wages, and the perceived lack of productivity emerged as a driving factor behind the changing political landscape, Pulse Asia Incorporated said in a statement. Okay, basta economic? Okay. These issues left unaddressed by the administration have prompted a negotiable migration of a pro-administration voters toward neutrality, it added. Okay, nag-English pa nga mga neutral. Yung mga meron ba? Okay, mga meron yan. Ayan. So, i-continue natin, ano? Iba kasi ang opposition, iba po yung mga neutral lang. Okay, mag-observe mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Mga meron ng tawag dyan, no? So, sige. Okay, maraming meron. The National Capital Region, NCR, witnessed a significant drop in the pro-administration, no? Sa national po mga kababayan, no? Metro Manila. Drop in the pro-administration sentiment from 49% to 33%. Ako, malaki po mga kababayan, na 49% to 33%. Okay, 16% ang diferensya mga kababayan, no? Kasi 9 minus 6, minus 3, 6. And 4 minus 3, 1. So 16%, no? While Mindanao and the North Central Luzon NCL show decline of a 51% and 49% respectively. Okay, konti ang galaw ng Mindanao, no? Okay. Okay, notably, neutral sentiment increased across the region, including a shift toward non-partisanship, Pulse Asia said. Yung mga mirror nga, yung hindi makialam po muna. Okay, hanggang hindi makasilip ng mabuti. Okay, yan lang pasilip-silip mga kababayan na. Okay, observe lang. Okay, the polling firm added the anti-opposition sentiment has decreased from 40% to 32%, with a notable increase in neutral sentiment from 42% to 47% na. Mabuti man neutral, ganyan ang stand mga kababayan na. Okay, the Duterte effect persists, with the opposition party grappling with this discreditation from the previous administration, Pulse Asia Incorporated. Na? Okay, regionally, pro-opposition support remained relatively stable, experiencing marginal increases in the NCR, NCL, nung Luzon, no? And Mindanao. So, relatively, no? Ang term remained relatively stable, experienced marginal increases, okay, sa loob po ng NCR at saka NCL, mga kababayan. Okay. So, yan po ang katayuan po ng mga opposition, mga kababayan na. Anti-opposition sentiment declined across all region, showcasing a shift toward neutrality. Okay, yung mga anti-opposition, mga kababayan na. Okay. Maraming mag-neutral, no? Miron lang muna. Ayan. Okay, the proportion of Filipino voters adopting a neutral stance toward the opposition has notably increased. Increase po. Okay na? Ang power po sa opposition na. Ulitin ko, the proportion of Filipino voters adopting a neutral stance toward the opposition has notably increased in NCR, Visayas, and Mindanao. Pulse Asia said na. The Pahayag 2023 end of the year survey was non-commissioned. The poll was conducted using a purposive sampling compound of 1,500 respondents randomly drawn from the market research panel of over 200,000 Filipinos maintained by the Singapore office of a Pulse Asia, of a Pulse, hindi Pulse pala, no? Pure spectrum. Isang word lang, pure spectrum. Okay. The sample was restricted to registered Filipino voters maintained by Pure Spectrum, a US-based panel marketplace with a multinational presence po, mga kababayan na. Ayan. Bago ito Spectrum. Okay, ano yung tawag? Pure Spectrum, mga kababayan na. So, yan po ang latest survey po. Okay, nakuha natin dito sa platform ng balita, no? Ayan. So, wala nang tayong no? Okay, sandali lang. Tutugtukin ko ito and then magpaalam tayo, no?
Administration ng balita at iba pa ay tumatalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at nakapanahan. Politika, opinyon, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang pinikilingan, walang pinakampihan at walang pinapamigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service kahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Okay, housing market that takes a return as a sales rebound. Okay, kasi wala ng oras, kahit kalahati lang, no? Basahin po natin ito. Okay, ang pag-asa po sa mag-negosyo po ng itong ayan, itong mga housing. Sige na, kahit kunti lang. Ayan. Okay, pending home sale with refer to process in real estates where a seller has accepted an offer or the property declined. The lease is more than a year. A signed real estate analyst say of a rebound in the housing market. Maganda magnegosyo sa real estate, no? Okay, sa mga rate. REIT. Okay, pending homes 4% for the year in the 4 weeks ending December 24. According to the data, okay, from the real estate, excuse me, no? Okay, firm Redpin in what was the smallest decline since March 2022. The development comes amid accelerating mortgage rate, which at one point in October soared to their highest level in more than 20 years, no? Okay. Sige. Ayan. Okay, mortgage rate heavily declined over the last few weeks. The average 30 years fixed rate mortgage was at a 6.61% as of December 27. Redpin said its lowest level since May. Meanwhile, demand shot up. Okay, percent company to month ago for a week ending in December 24. By price is a key metric of affordability continue to go up. Okay, with the median sales price jumping by 4.5% compared to a year ago to about $364,000 US dollar. No, the biggest increase since October 2022. Okay, the median asking price also shot up by more than 5% to more than 363,000 US dollar. Na? Okay, tama na. Okay, wala na akong oras. Okay, isang oras lang balita ko mga kababayan na. Okay. So ito na. Okay, magpaalam na tayo po mga kababayan na. Okay. So, pasok na po isang oras ang programa, no? Ito po. Ayan po, tapos ang balita mga kababayan, no? So, paalam tayo sa gabi ng Friday, bukas ata wala tayong programa, no? Okay, pero pag may mga importante, mag-program din ako. Ayan. 30 bukas, no? Okay, 31 linggo. Okay, Monday po ang bagong taon po sa 2024. So, kumusta na kayo, no? Okay, tapusin natin ang balita dito po sa Consolidated News natin. Okay, kung saan-saan manggaling ang mga balita. Ayan po mga kababayan, no? Okay, tutulungan po ng Mind of Global Food Lines. Okay. Corporation mga salamat po, ulitin ko. Sa lahat po bumili ng produkto ng Mind of Global Food Lines, ay maraming salamat, no? Okay. Wag kayo magsawa po ay tutulong dito sa kumpanya ito mga kababayan, no? Okay, para may balita kayo tuwing umaga po at saka gabi mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Okay, tapos ang news natin. Ayan po. So, ang proposal po ng Egyptian government, Cairo, Egypt, wala pong resulta maganda mga kababayan, no? Ayan. So, patuloy po ang kaguluhan po diyan sa bansa ng Palestine. Okay, pati West Bank na ata, no? Okay. North Gaza Strip, South Gaza Strip, pati West Bank. Ang Israeli forces po pumapasok sa mga area na yan, no? Ayan. So, manatili po tayo magmanman. Manatili tayo mag-monitor po sa problema yan, no? Okay, hanggang walang katapusan, nariyan po ang balita natin nakatutok, no? Okay. So, palagay ko hanggang dito. Okay, wala tayong masamang tinapay, no? Okay, sa halo-halo special, opinion balita at iba pa, kasama sa serbisyo publiko tinig ng mamamayan, at saka sumbungan ng mamamayan, wala tayong masamang tinapay, no? Okay, so paalam tayo. Kung walang magandang balita bukas, hindi tayo magbalita. Okay, sa linggo rin, kung wala naman na mga importante balita, hindi tayo magbalita. Balik tayo ng holiday, no? Holiday po ang New Year. Baka mga adults tayo babalik mga kababayan, no? Pull natin muna ang pahinga. Okay, sa konting panahon po sa pagbalita mga kababayan, no? Okay, so paalam tayo. This has been Abs naman lamang, no? Okay, sa gabing ito. Pero year na balita tayo, no? Okay, mamili tayo ng mga balita kung anong naalala natin itong 2023. Kahit kunting oras, okay, gawin natin mga linggo ata, no? Mga linggo. Ayan. Okay, maraming salamat sa nakaraan ng taon 2023 ay hindi nyo ko iniwanan, no? Kasi pag iniwanan nyo ako, wala na akong balita mga kababayan, no? Okay, so salamat. Okay, mga tinamaan, okay, napahagingan, okay, ganun lang pa mga kababayan, no? Okay, pag meron tinamaan, hindi mo maiwasan yan, no? Okay, ganun lang. Meron naman mga napuri, mga pinupuri, yan din. Sige. So, paalam ako, this has been Abs naman lamang po for 2023. Pero year-end balita tayo, no? Kung makalista tayo ng kung anong mga balita po nangyari sa 2020. Mag-recall pa ako. Okay. Sa aking balita, no? Bye-bye na. Ayan. Babalik tayo regular po sa programa natin sa DOS ng 2024. Enero po DOS ng 2024, no? Ayan. Sige.
Ang administration ng balita at iba pa ay tumatalakay sa may subang kasalukuyan at nakapanahan. Politika, opinion, komentaryo at balita ang programa ito'y patas sa lahat. Walang kinikilingan, walang kinakampihan, at walang pinapanigan ang programa ito. Ang programa ito ay public service sa kahanginan at trabaho lamang.
Speaker na ito, no? Maghanap tayo ng speaker maganda. Okay. Tagal na ginamit, no? Okay. Oh.